1984 was published in 1949, and it's definitely stood the test of time. It's set in a dystopian London, a London where a totalitarian government rules with an iron fist. The figurehead for the state is a man called Big Brother, who is only ever seen on a poster. And every single home has something called a telescreen in it. A telescreen that can hear everything you say and see everything you do. Every member of the state is also required to attend something called a weekly 2-minute hate, where everybody gathers into a room and the enemy of the state is displayed up on a screen, and everybody just needs to hate this person intensely for 2 minutes. Very horrific stuff. I'm actually going to start this review by pointing out a few negatives of the book, okay? To start with, the storyline of 1984 isn't that strong. You've got a protagonist called Winston Smith. Winston Smith decides to write a diary, which is illegal. He falls in love with a girl, which is also illegal. He rents a private room somewhere without telling anybody, which is also illegal, and he basically becomes a dissident, which is also illegal. The storyline isn't too strong, and the narrative is also a little bit too telly. Nothing at all is left to dialogue. Everything is told to you by the narrator. Too much narration, and there are huge sections of the book where everything is just laid bare and explained to you. I think that's a weak point for the book. It's almost like, you know, don't worry about a novel. I'm just going to tell you everything. It feels like George Orwell is just telling you the whole story in his own words, with just a little bit of dialogue thrown in here and there. That's my criticism of the book. However, the book is absolutely jam-packed with terrifying ideas, okay? The main protagonist, Winston Smith, works for a certain section of the government, and his job is to edit old articles and old magazines and old documents and old books. Everything needs to be constantly edited and updated. Every week, more or less, the government comes out with a new fact, a new historical fact, or a new piece of information. And if that information contradicts an old article or something in a newspaper 10 years ago, that newspaper needs to be edited and completely changed. If a new fact comes along, it's a fact. The old fact gets deleted and the new fact gets edited in. Newspeak. The whole concept of newspeak came about in this novel, and it's terrifying. The government wants to completely control the nation, completely control the people, and it wants to reduce fault as much as possible. So the language, the English language, is compressed and reduced and reduced. Words are deleted every single week, and the vocabulary is stripped down to the bare skeleton. And by doing so, the average person thinks less. It could be said that we think using words, and the less words we have, the less we can think, the less our mental scope is. So the language is constantly reduced, and these newspeak dictionaries get published every year, where, like, you know, that grammar is made basic, the vocabulary is reduced, and everything is just dumbed down. The concept of thought crime came from this book. An action might be a crime, of course, but in 1984, thinking about that action is also a crime. Not even your thoughts belong to you. Not even the grey matter inside your cranium belongs to you. It belongs to the state. You don't own your own brain. You don't own your own faults. That is 1984. And of course, you've got the telly screens here, as I've already mentioned. 1984 is ultimately about human beings controlling other human beings in every possible way. Control, control, control. Power, power, power. Controlling people's bodies, controlling people's actions, and above all else, controlling people's faults. And that is the scariest part. The book highlights a certain human trait that I've known for a long time. Human beings are not very good at moderation. It doesn't matter whether it's communism, capitalism, religion, or social justice. Human beings have to take things to the extreme. We're not very good at moderation. It always goes to the extreme, and it always goes too far, and it's always about one group of people controlling another group of people. That is the human way, and it's highlighted very well in this book. 1984 is about governmental control taken to the extreme.
Thank you for making it to the halfway point of this video. This is a quick message to let you know that my short story collection, A Bunch of Fives, will be released on the 1st of June. You can pre-order the book right now, however, for a discounted price by using the provided links below. Thank you. Now back to the video.
Breaking the book down a little bit, I would say the first quarter of the book is very good. The prose is very lucid, and this dystopian city is described pretty well. You learn about the main protagonist, you learn about what the government is like, and the first quarter is quite a good read. The second and the third quarters, however, in my opinion, are a bit slow. He spends a lot of time with this woman who he falls in love with. They rent a room, they go to the woods together. You know, spoiler alert a little bit. You read a lot about Winston and this woman. It gets a bit slow for me during the middle. The second and the third quarters get a bit of a drag for me. You also learn about a book of the Brotherhood, and there's like this huge section where you're kind of reading pages from this book within a book, and again everything is explained to you. Nothing is left to dialogue at all. It's a bit too telly. For me, the middle part of the book is a bit slow. However, the last quarter of the book, the last quarter of 1984 is terrifying. The last part of the book makes it, in my opinion. Again, a slight spoiler here, but you know, at the end of the book, alright, complete spoiler. If you're going to read this book and you don't want to ruin the storyline, switch up. But in the last part of the book, he gets captured by the government, and he's strapped to a bed, and he's being interrogated and tortured, and it is just complete and utter mind control to the max. It's like a human being being conditioned and controlled in the worst, most horrific way possible. The interrogator is holding up 4 fingers, and he's asked, how many fingers am I holding up? And he says 4 fingers. Wrong answer. Electric shock. I'm holding up 5 fingers, not 4. You know, it's like, it's complete double think. He's being conditioned to see what's not there. It's like he doesn't own himself anymore. The state owns him now. He belongs to the state. It's complete and utter possession of another human being. And it's written so well by George Orwell. the last quarter of the book kind of makes up for the second and the third quarters, in my opinion. It is terrifying. It's so shocking. It's like it makes it into my all-time most shocking scenes in books. You know, it's that bad. I'll tell you what as well, it's amazing what you forget as well. I first read this book back in 2018, 4 years ago roughly, which is not that long ago, really. You know, it's quite long, but not that long. And I could only remember about 3 or 4 brief scenes from the book. And when I read it this time around, I was like, wow, I don't remember any of this stuff. So it just goes to show you sometimes need to read a book twice, especially this one. To sum up, if you're not into politics, don't read this book, because it is a political book. You could describe it as a sci-fi book, or a dystopian sci-fi book, but ultimately it is a political book, and if you're not into politics, you might not enjoy it. Saying that, I'm not into politics, and I enjoyed it, mind you, so you know, you might enjoy it, but as a general rule, if you're not into politics, you might not enjoy this. Maybe if you don't want to read the whole thing, just read the last quarter. Actually, the book is split up into 3 parts, not quarters. If you want to just read the important part, read part 3, if you really want to skip the rest. Yeah, George Orwell's prose, it's very lucid, it's very clear, it is a pleasure to read. He's kind of taken a very huge, complex topic and made it quite reader-friendly in a way. And it's 73 years old. The book is 73 years old. It's like, what's that? 3/4 of a century. And it's still scary. It's stood the test of time. It really has. Who knows what people made of it back in 1949 when it was first published. It must have been even scarier back then. But it still holds up. It really still holds up. It's a great book, and it's one of the most disturbing books I've ever read. Okay, so it's a thumbs up from me. Thanks for watching. I'll be back in about 2 weeks or so with another book review. In the meantime, try to have a good day on this Orwellian dictatorial rock we call Earth. Goodbye.